Okay, it is Back to the Future. Actually, it's less of a podcast. It's a live cast. I don't know what you would call it. But this is the 33rd time I've tried to do this. And for the either third or fourth time, if I can get to the right screen here, I have Warren Sklar. There he is. Hey, Warren, what's up?
Hello, everybody.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, it looks like
we had a little delay going.
Yeah, the delay thing is happening again. Damn it. Oh well. Nothing we can do. I'll have to fix it in post. That's how that works. As long because what I do is once everything is done, I take the complete video, which is the video and the audio all melded together, drop it into Premiere Elements, and then I separate the video and then the audio, and then I can move them around just a little bit until they're all nice, comfy, cozy, and more or less where they need to be. Isn't that fascinating?
But right now it looks like we're in a Chinese kung fu movie, and we're just kind of talking to each other in Chinese.
Well, you have that little delay where it's my kung fu is better than your kung fu.
My Mac is faster than yours. Mac super bad.
I am super bad. I am super bad.
I am Mac.
Okay. All right, enough of that. Do we have anybody in the chat room? Doesn't look like it.
Not at all. Just
okay, good. So then they're not going to be embarrassed by anything that we do here. At least not yet. Tonight we're going to talk a little bit about how the press treats Apple. This is something I talked on the My Mac podcast about this a little bit with Carl Madden from the Mac and Forth podcast. But since then, there was another article, a couple articles, and I've got them linked here in the show notes, and I'll probably go ahead and put them in the show notes as well. As a matter of fact, I can do this. I'm going to take these three headlines, and I'm going to dump them here into the chat. So anyone who's interested can go and look at these stories too. And it's a weird mix of truth, logic, and sometimes lack thereof. I really don't see why so many sites, especially tech sites, have to resort to this kind of crap.
Just mostly with
Hey,
Apple.
Frank.
Too. Hey, Frank.
So,
mostly with Apple, it seems that the tech writers they know they get the hits when you mention
that seems to be all they want.
Yeah, that is definitely it. So, you go where the money is.
All right.
Hey,
well,
Josh.
this first story, the headline is iPhone 8 launch propels Apple to growth in China after. Oh, come on. Leave me alone with telling me I don't like ads. Everybody knows I don't like ads. After 18 months of sales dips. And this story claims that Apple has a 40% growth, somewhat due to the iPhone 8, and then quotes stats from 2017 quarter 3, which is before the iPhone 8 was released. Continues to quote statistics essentially from the iPhone 6 and 6 Plus release, which frankly was kind of a freak of nature as far as sales goes. And we'll go into that in just a little bit. The second story now, the first story was from TechCrunch. The second story here is from ZDNet. And it says iPhone 8 helps Apple bounce back in China, but is it a trend or just a blip? You know, I don't know who writes this. So this is a similar story with much of the same stats, but with the emphasis on this possibly being just a blip before everything falls apart for Apple yet again. Both the TechCrunch and ZDNet articles show sales for various Chinese phone makers, with Apple in fifth place. Now, the third one is the one that really got my goat. And this one is from CNET. And it says iPhone 8 dubbed Apple's worst sold flagship model in China. Now, you know, this is unbelievable. I can't even believe this headline. CNET is saying that the iPhone 8 is awful in sales, leading to steep discounts by resellers. So, you know, I mean, what do you believe? Who to believe? They can't all be right. Are they all? Can they all be right, Warren?
So, I mean, we're not in China, so we don't know what's going on there. So the iPhone 8 is obviously a weird product for Apple. It's obviously something that came out very close to something else that came out that people are going to buy over it for the most part. Most people will.
Mean the 10?
Yeah, the 10. Apple knew this was going to happen, whether it's true or not. Whether it's selling worse than any other iPhone in history or in recent history,
that's for China.
For China, and we're getting that around here too. The interesting article I saw today, and I believe this article, is they were saying that the iPhone 10 was not supposed to be released. Yes, Marcus, we hear you. Sorry, or we see you. The iPhone 10 was not supposed to be released until 2018, and Apple moved it up. And that would make sense as far as sales of the iPhone 8. Because if it was going to be another year before the 10 was released, a lot more people would be buying the 8, guaranteed. But in any case, I have no reason not to believe that the iPhone 8 is not selling as well as previous iPhones. I have no idea how well it sells comparatively in other countries, or if it's other phones. If other phones are selling more in China, I don't know which ones they were. Does the article say that?
Yeah, let me see. I got that article here somewhere. I got too many windows open.
Yeah.
La la la. Here we go.
So, and again, China doesn't.
So the other companies that are ahead of Apple in sales in China is, I don't know if I can even say some of these. Huawei, Oppo, Vivo, and Xiaomi.
Yeah, the XI.
It's XIAOMI.
Yeah. So Chinese manufacturer phones.
Right, all running Android.
All running Android. The first two are their cheaper brands. I've heard of them. They're cheap phones. They're going to
appeal to a market with people that don't have a lot of money.
China was the one that Apple was fighting to get to sell in China at one point. Remember, they weren't always able to sell the phone there, and then they got to do that.
Sure.
That's why they were trying to lower. I think that was one of the reasons the 5 SE came out, if I remember right, is when around that time, because it was a low-cost iPhone model that was going to sell a lot in China. So they don't have the same kind of economy as we do, and they're going to buy the cheaper handsets. So I have no reason not to think that that's not a threat.
The SE is essentially it's a smaller 6. It's the same processor, the same basic guts.
Yeah, but it was cheap. Or it was much cheaper.
Yeah, it was much cheaper than I think that came out after the S model came out.
It came
So
out, and
when the
and
SE
what
came out, they were just, I can't remember when the SE exactly came out, but it was
it was with the
after
six.
the 6S and 6E came out.
Yeah,
So,
and it was around the time, I think, around the time Apple was trying to get into India to sell in India, and possibly around China too,
well, for
where
India, they wanted to take their plethora of used and remanufactured phones and dump them into India because those would be much cheaper than Apple's flagship phones. And India, besides kind of pushing for a deal with some manufacturing there in India, along with a help center in India, and I believe some kind of rudimentary apps app school to teach developers how to develop for iOS,
they were
which
trying
would
to
make
get
sense.
stores in India. Do you remember that?
Yeah,
And
and
the,
India wouldn't let them unless they had
it
manufacturing
needed
there as well.
they needed 20, no, they it was weird. They needed like 20% or 30% of local produced merchandise in the Apple stores, and they didn't
Yeah,
have it. So they finally worked that out, I thought. But we were all making jokes, like that. They were going to have like yeah, the iPhone section, the iPad section, and the Indian spices, right in the corner there, where you can make your tea and stuff like that. So,
I need my curry.
but yeah, the curry in the curry section. But yeah, so I mean, these countries, when I see articles talking about sales of the iPhone or any Apple product in any country other than the United States, my brain just goes, because I can't tell you. Their economy is so much different. In China, there are so many different Chinese phones out there that are probably dirt cheap
Sure,
compared to here, and I would imagine a lot cheaper than Apple. You know,
but they're also like crap phones. You know the whole thing with most, and and I'm not talking about the high end flagship phones that the Android makers make, but the majority of the phones that they sell are is just crap. I mean, I got into an argument with, I don't even remember where it was, with somebody over on the Facebooks, and it was either Facebook or Disc, but he was talking about how well, Samsung sells more phones than Apple, and it's like, yeah, they sell more garbage. You know, they have a variety of phones, and I actually went to the Samsung site and looked this up to see what the current phones that Samsung is selling in stores. Some of
mm-hmm,
them are still using Android 2.2 Froyo, which was,
mm-hmm,
I mean, they're on 10 now. And you can bet that the majority of these phones that are on 2, none on 3, because that was basically a tablet OS, 2, 4, 5, and 6, most of these phones, which are dirt cheap, have crap internals, and they'll never be updated. These are the phones that people go in to AT&T, Verizon, and Sprint, and, all of these stores here in the United States, and they say, well, I want a smartphone. I don't want to spend a lot of money. So they hand them
mm-hmm.
one of these garbage phones. And, you know, I'm being kind of flippant about it, but for the most part, these kinds of phones for those people are probably fine because they're going on to Facebook. They're
Yeah.
maybe doing a few other little things, but they're not banking on it as I have done on mine. They're not using it for credit card transactions as I have done on mine. It's basically a phone and a social media thing. They're using it for Facebook and Twitter and
Right.
Instagram.
And when, in the US, if you go to T-Mobile or Verizon and you start a new plan or sign up with something new and you get a free phone here and there, it's not going to be an iPhone. It's going to
No,
be one of the middle range Android phones that you're
sure.
going to get, possibly as a free phone. And that's why they exist. And that's
And there's nothing
what
wrong
Apple,
with that. If that's what you want, then fine. Except an Android phone that is relatively low as compared to the high-end Android phones and the iPhone in quality, that's going to have kind of a crap camera, but it's probably good enough for selfies or whatever the hell else it is you're doing with it. And, but that's what you're going to end up with. You're not going to end up with a really good phone. It may even be a Samsung phone, but it's not going to be their top of the line phone, because those go for as much as the iPhone.
They do.
Now, I was talking about those three stories, and there's a lot in there that just from the headlines you would think kind of contradict each other, but using statistics and the way that people can kind of spin the information, they can all be completely right and they can all be completely wrong. So there is sales growth with the iPhone 8, and according to two of the stories, it's selling roughly 40% more than in the same quarter last year. CNET story, on the other hand, is suggesting that sales aren't good when compared to other local brands, which is true enough, with Apple in 5th place. But what they also don't mention is only the Apple and the iPhone have a truly different experience than in all those other models being sold, because all the rest of them are Android phones. None of them are running whoever's making the phone. They're not supplying an OS. They may supply some crap on top of Android, but they're all Android phones. So only the iPhone, number one, is a premium phone, and only the iPhone is selling a uniquely different experience as far as the operating system goes. So
that's true.
When you lump all these phones together and compare that to the sales of iPhones, this is misleading at best and lying at worst. It's the equivalent of saying that Chevys are better than Jaguars or possibly Lincolns because more people bought Chevys. Now, if you look at just the top-end Chevy, the Impala, and compared that in sales to like the Jaguar XE or the XF, and they're roughly the same amount as far as cost goes, or the Lincoln Continental or MKZ, then you may have a better reference to work with. You don't compare a car like the Chevy Cruze, which isn't a bad car, which will have the vast majority of sales over the Impala, but is hardly in the same class as the Lincoln or the Jaguar, and expect a good comparison. So,
so my question is, what is the author's gain? All right, by
ads,
clicks,
ad impressions,
and that's it. Other than that, you'll see the anti-Apple people read those things and they'll post them on their Android love page websites or their anti-Apple pages and say, hey, look, I told you iPhone 8, it's not selling. Apple's doomed. It's too expensive. That's all it's doing. I mean, it's fuel for them. And, at the end of the day, Apple makes a better product and they make a lot of money. And, it has been going on forever.
Well, that's true.
Yeah.
But do you think that the iPhone 8 is a victim of people waiting for the 10?
Yes, I do.
Even though that the 10, as far as the amount of phones that Apple has been able to make, is so much less than the 8? What's this?
If the 10 wasn't coming out for another year or so, the 8 would be selling twice as much as it's now. It's hard to call it a victim because Apple's just buying, you're just buying another Apple product, and, Apple's only going to make a certain amount, of what it needs to have anyways. And they're not crying over it, but the 8 and 8 Plus are losing sales to the iPhone 10. And Apple, I'm sure, knows that and expected it.
Okay, well, we're going to take a break, and I want to hit on that when we come back.
Okay.
I'm going to go to Ed's book tonight. I think we'll talk. We'll let the ad speak for Ed's book because I like Ed's book. Get Ed's book. It's only 99 cents.
Yeah.
Be right
Ed
back.
He needs a phone. Buy the book.
Are you a new Mac user or an old hand? Wish you could know the ins and outs, keyboard shortcuts, or hidden tips and tricks to make you more efficient using your favorite computer? Hey, it's your lucky day because Edward Eisen has written a great guide to knowing more about the Mac and the OS that it runs on. It's called This is the Light Side, and it's available through Apple's iBookstore or with Amazon. Better yet, it's not a stuffy old book that gathers dust on the shelf once the next operating system is released, because it's an ebook that you can look at any time you want. It won't get outdated because it's continuously being updated. Information on setting up your new Mac, installing and getting rid of applications, security settings and what to look out for, keyboard shortcuts, some basic app recommendations, how to use Windows on your Mac, if you really want to, that is, advanced topics, searching, using iCloud, and much more. All this for a mere 99 cents. Go to the iBookstore or Amazon and check out Edward Eisen's This is the Light Side. It's the book you want on your virtual shelf. Yikes. Oh, hold on. Damn it. There we go. I hit the wrong button. It's one problem with being your own producer. It's like, okay, I just got to hit this, and I did unmute the mics, and then hit this button over here, and everything is going crazy. All right, things are not as crazy as it sounds.
You need an assistant.
Yeah. So you were about to make a point before I rudely interrupted you for an ad. What was it?
I think I kind of made the point, but the point is there are a lot of people that would have bought the 8 or the 8 Plus had the iPhone 10 not been available or even existed until, way down the line. People could wait the month to go with the 10. The price difference, there's a price difference. There's some technical issues that we're all not going to be sure about as far as the Face ID. Excuse me. As far as the Face ID, as far as the notch in the screen. So there's going to be some changes that people, it's the one phone since the 6 that we literally have no prior basis to know what it's going to be until we have it in our hand. If I was going to buy an 8 Plus, I would find myself very comfortable in my purchase because I have a 7 Plus and it's going to be very much like the 8 Plus and it's going to work very much the same except better. This new phone, the 10, is a whole different thing. People could get in and say, this is horrible. I hate this. Why'd I spend $1,000 on it? It's not going to happen, I don't think. But, this is the first time in a while that I'm buying, or a lot of people are buying a product fully unseen in that sense.
But then why do you think that Apple released the 10?
Why they release it at all, or why they release it so close to the 8?
Why did they release it at the same time, basically at the same time as the 8?
Well, that's the question. The article, again, that I read today said they were thinking about releasing in 2018. The answer probably is that it was ready and they know that this is a first gen product that is going to be more of a test case than not. This is very much like the very first 2015 MacBook Retina that came out, where it was a whole new design with a whole new architecture and keyboard, and they put a high price on it. And they knew that, and the Air was still being produced. The MacBook Air and the MacBook Pro was still being produced. and it was basically this is what Apple does to make us product testers, more or less. Um, but the timing is interesting. I definitely think that when they released the thing a month after the 8, they knew or they had to know that the 8 would suffer in some of the sales because other people are going to buy the 10. And they probably looked at each other and said, that's not a bad thing.
Well, Apple has always been the kind of company that seemed to have the opinion of if someone is going to cannibalize our sales, it should be us as compared
Right.
to some other company.
Yeah.
So you saw it when they came out with Intel Macs versus PowerPC Macs. I mean, I think the original timeline for replacing all the PowerPC Macs with Intel was about 2 years, and they ended up doing it in a year because they saw that as soon as an Intel MacBook Pro came out, that nobody was buying PowerPC machines. So they just decided to cut the cord and do it all the way.
This is also the reason why we don't have a touch screen or iOS type of full on MacBook or Mac laptop, because they don't want people. They would love me to have an iPhone, an iPad, and a MacBook, whereas they would rather me not have just a MacBook and maybe an iPhone. They like the fact that people buy iPads too.
Well,
they are making some adjustments. They are not putting as much effort into their iPad Mini now. Why? Because there's
I don't think
larger.
We'll ever see another iPad Mini. I think that's done.
Maybe not, but it's the reason is that there's iPhone Pluses now, and they know people.
A bigger screen iPhone kind of killed it.
Yeah, so they have to. They're competing with themselves at this point.
Well, sure,
and it's not a bad thing. They have a product line now that they have a product line out now where they're giving people options of what to buy in a lot of forms, and it's going to kill off mini. iPad Mini is going to kill off an iPhone 8 because there's going to be something that's going to be a little bit better right down the line. Doesn't mean they're bad products, and it doesn't mean
not at all.
Doesn't mean if you own one, it's a bad thing.
I don't think we're going to see another Touch ID phone or possibly the next gen iPads may do away with it as well. I think Touch ID is done. I think we're pretty much in the realm of Face ID now, for better or for worse. I don't know if I necessarily agree with that decision, but I can't see Apple releasing a product like the iPhone 10 and then next year continuing to have both types of products available, where you've got one that's Face ID and the other one that's Touch ID, or worse, one that has both. I just, this is the 3.5 millimeter or 3.5 millimeter headphone jack all over again. They're never going to put that back in. It's done. It's over. Stick a fork in it.
Apple does not like to admit when they've done something bad.
Is it bad? If you look at the flagship phones that are coming out from other companies now, a lot of them are dropping it as well. It's like they were waiting.
I'm not talking about. Let's not. The headphone jack is one thing, but let's talk about the touch bar. Okay. So they came out with the touch bar, and they came out with the touch bar for MacBook Pro models. A new MacBook came out, did not include the touch bar. New MacBook, they haven't figured out a way to put the touch bar on a desktop machine yet, for whatever reason. There's not a lot of development going on for it. Isn't it
kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy, though? if you don't keep putting it in products, then people aren't going to develop for it.
Right. So Apple's, they're not pushing it as much. They're stopping pushing it. They're not pushing it in any of their newer products except the existing product that it's in.
Well, other than, I mean, what products have come out that could use the touch bar that have been released since the touch bar came out? You had
the new
one
MacBook.
iMac that came out, but there's really no place to put it on there unless you've got it on the keyboard.
Right. And the new MacBook, 2017.
Oh yeah, that's true.
So
I don't know. Maybe they consider the touch bar to be more of a pro feature. Now I know that with the new iMac Pro, the pictures I've seen of that, which is god damn it, that's a gorgeous freaking machine.
Touch bar thing either, and it's not going to have it on
no there you don't see it on the accessories for that either. You don't see that on the iMac Pro keyboard. Hell, the mouse still has the recharge button on the bottom, like the new Magic mice have.
For the $5,000 iMac Pro, I guarantee they could have figured out a way to put the touch bar on that thing, and they would have done it if they really thought it was going to be the future. They're going to go back. It's going to phase out, I think, at some point, and they're not going to call it a mistake, but they're just not going to, it's going to be one of the things that just came and gone, and I don't think it's going to be on their top priority at this point. Face ID, I think that's their priority. I think new MacBooks coming out are going to, instead of having a touch bar, are going to do more with the facial cameras in the front, and maybe do, other computers have it already on the laptops and desktops. Windows has something called Windows Hello, where you look at it and it unlocks. So it works. I don't know if you could stick somebody's picture in front of there, and I don't know how secure it is, but it does work, and I'm sure Apple could do it too.
Well, they would have to incorporate the same type of what do they call that, with the 30,000 IR pinpoints that came out and would like map your face.
Yeah.
They would have to do the same kind of thing with either the built-in camera in the laptops or with a next-gen screen, not so much with the iMac, but for whenever they figure out what they're going to do with it, the next version of the Mac Pro. And I guess they would also have to have a new monitor to go along with that. Still,
they could do it.
Still loving this monitor. I've got it hooked up. What I'm trying to do, and what I would like to do, and I'll throw this out here for everyone to comment on. There's a service that I found, and let me see if I can bring it up here.
While you do that, we got some chat room chatter. Let me see if I could answer some questions while you do that.
Okay.
Damon, since we are talking about the new Mac Pro or the new iMac Pro, he wants to know if there's any news about the new Mac Pro. As far as I know, there's not, unless guys heard anything about that. Suds is saying the price-sensitive people are going to get the iPhone 8. That is definitely true. The price difference, I don't think is that much different between the 10 and the 8. It's when you look at the size options, but it does make a difference. Ed says Apple does cannibalize their own sales instead of another company doing it, which is a good thing. Mystery Factor. Marcus says it's a 10-year anniversary. It's changing the whole iPhone line with the Face ID, and that's when we were talking about why they come out with the 10 at all. That is the thing. It's not within their product line. This is something they've been working on for 5 years. This was going to be a 10-year anniversary phone. Sort of their little baby project that they were doing. Is a touch bar really necessary? My feeling is no, but other people seem to like it. Frank loves his. or he loves it. He would love to see it on his on a Magic Keyboard. Joshua wants to know what monitor you got. Josh, I had some crazy client that I fixed her computer, and she, for payment, gave me a 27-inch. Uh, uh, what do they call them?
A cinema display.
Cinema display and
Right.
an iMac.
So it's like a 2011, I think.
It's a 2000, yeah. Actually,
Yeah.
she broke the glass. So a couple of months ago, she broke the glass on it, and she was about to throw the thing away. So I'm like, no, you could, $20. I just put new glass on there. So, anyways, I sold it to Guy, and he's loving it.
Oh, it's so nice. Such a beautiful monitor.
Frank wants to face map his nuts. No. Oh nut does my face need mapping? Yes, it does. And says things. The value where Apple adds is in hardware is via software. Software is the money. I think about Face ID. Look at your phone notifications. Yes. So the age-old question is Apple a hardware or software company? And the answer is both, I guess. But they were first.
They're a hardware company that uses software to sell the hardware. I mean, that's really where the rubber meets the road.
Yeah.
They pay much less attention, and I think that the problems they've had with iTunes and some of their other software products lately shows this. They pay much more attention to the hardware than they do the software. And lately, the hardware that they're paying more attention to is the iPhone, and it's iOS, because that's where like 75% of the money for the company is coming from.
Yep.
All right, let me see if I can figure out how to show this to you guys. The name of it is Zeno, and it's zenolive.com. Okay, now you should be able to see the site there, and there's a telephone number. So essentially, you could call this telephone number, listen in on your phone, hit a number to request to talk to us, and I would get the requests down here. I mean, and the really crazy, I'm gonna get rid of it because it keeps telling me to please wait a moment, and it's making me crazy. Let's see. Let me get back up to the dual. Oh, come on. Yeah, I really need somebody to help me out here.
So what this is, you could take live calls. Is that what this is?
However, and this is where your Mac Mini and this display would come into place. I would offset the Zeno Live part over into the Mac Mini, and I can do that from the mixer I have because I have like two auxiliary outputs on the mixer. So I would have two cables going over to the Mac Mini. I would have one with the output of the mixer, similar to what we're doing right here, going over to the Mac Mini. That would go through Zeno Live and through their service, and then I would have a return cable that would be going into an aux in port that I could incorporate into the main mix that everybody could hear right here on this, and I could record it all and all the rest of that. But right now, I mean, I'm looking at my CPU usage using OBS and Pages and Facebook, Chrome, and I got iTunes open, and I've got a Twitter client open, and I'm looking at 40% CPU usage, which is more than I'm really comfortable with when I'm trying to do a live stream. So I certainly wouldn't want to add on to that by having yet another service that is transmitting out of this computer through the internet and then coming back again. So I would have to offload that to another computer, which is what I would use the Mac Mini for. But we'll see.
And then if that works out, you can use it. We could do phone sex services with that. I could. I mean, I'm assuming that's what it's used for.
Sometimes it's not a question of whether you can, but whether you should. and at my age, nobody wants to have phone sex with me.
Whatever pays the bills,
All right. One of the other things I would love to do if this ever takes off is get, and I can't see how I could do it, would be to get another person involved that would actually be doing all the stuff that I'm trying to do here, moving screens around and all the rest of that. But I can't see that happening anytime soon, at least not easily. I guess, well, actually, it could happen. The only way that we could do that would be for there to be a third person, but they would have to be running OBS and doing all the changing and everything, everything else, while we sent all the video and the audio to them. I mean, it could be done, but I'm not sure how, and I can't imagine somebody wanting to sit there for, half hour, 45 minutes while we're doing this. Just don't see it happening. Oh, hey, Dave. Dave says, nice Mac stock hat. Yeah. I just got this from Mike a couple weeks ago. He put out an email asking that he'd gotten another batch of Mac stock hats in and asked if anybody wanted one. And I was like, yeah. Oh. So
when is Mac stock again? When is it?
Mac stock for the last 3 years has been in either June or July. I think the very first year it was in June. And then after that, it was for the last 2 years, it's been in July. So I'm not sure exactly when it's going to be this year. It's either going to be June or July, probably July, in Woodstock, Illinois, which is just outside of Chicago. And I don't know if there's anybody that's here in the chat room that has attended it or has attended something like the Macworld Expo, which of course is now gone.
Wah, wah, wah.
Wah, wah, wah. But the best part of the Macworld Expo wasn't the vendors. It wasn't the speakers. It wasn't any of that stuff. The best part about the Macworld Expo was the camaraderie between
the ladies.
No, not quite.
Okay.
The camaraderie between the attendees and the people that are kind of working behind the scenes to make it work. And I was there in a somewhat official capacity. I was there with mymac.com for the last 7 years that it was around. And that was the part that I always really enjoyed. I enjoyed going to the parties and being with people, going out on the floor and being with people, talking to people. It wasn't, I didn't care about HP's latest printer or, the iPhone cases or any of the rest of that crap. I just wanted to talk to the people that were there and, find out why they were there. And that was the best part of the Macworld Expo. Well, that's what MacStock does. That's what MacStock has. It's like getting together with 1 to 200 of your closest Mac friends. And on the bonus part is you've got a bunch of people standing on a stage that are talking about Mac stuff. So it was a blast, and it was relatively inexpensive. I think if you get the tickets early enough, $169 for both days, and that includes lunch. That included the after party on Saturday night.
So when you go there, though, but let me ask you this: when you go
Sure.
there, most of these people are in I don't want to say the business, but they know their stuff. They know things about Apple. So when you're talking about these people on the stage, who are they? Who's the audience? I mean, are these tech talks that they're doing? Are they?
Some of them are. Some of them, I mean, Tim and I did a game show after lunch on Saturday. We did like a game show where we were showing pictures of Mac hardware and software and some of the people that were involved with Apple, and giving like major hints over what the answer was, because we wanted everybody to be a winner. We didn't care about the prizes.
But the people that are doing like actual sessions, like if I came up there and I started talking about iCloud photo library or whatever, just as a topic, there's going to be 200 people like, I know this, I'm in the business. I do podcasts. I do You
Not
know,
necessarily. I mean, most of the people in the audience are relatively light users.
really?
They're just there to talk to people, just like we were. It's a lot of fun.
All right. I'll try to get the wife to.
Oh, and Frank says, don't forget about the deeper dives. Yeah, if you're really interested in a particular topic, there were several deeper dives that people were doing about the subjects that they talked about on stage.
And I guess that's what I'm going for. That and Frank, that's exactly what I was asking about, and that answers the question. So, like again, if you're pretty good at, if you know what you're doing, and you're listening to some of these things, it might be like I already know all this stuff, but if they have a deeper dive, then that's great. That's something. What you're saying is that after they talk, you can go and do a separate session.
Yeah,
That's
usually at the end of the day.
Yeah, yeah. So Dave said there are many novice users, and they do. So I'll try to get the wife to let me go. I would
Yeah,
love to go.
it's a Saturday and a Sunday, so it's a lot of fun. It's a
Yeah.
blast. I've gone the last 3 years, and I've had a blast every single year. Anyway,
Do it.
I had a whole bunch of other stuff written down that I was going to talk about, but we went off on a different subject, and it doesn't matter. It was still a good time. So we are at about 45, 46 minutes, so we kind of need to wrap this up. Warren, if people wanted to get a hold of you and say, why the heck do you come on this with Guy every week, what would you tell them?
I have no life. I have nothing else going on in my life.
Not the
You
one that
could find me.
started this. What do you think my life is like?
Nah, it's not good. Find me on Facebook. I'll be very available Friday. Waiting for my phone. I am not leaving the house.
Until it
I'm
comes.
probably not. I might not be leaving the area next to the door until it comes. So if you need to find me, I'll be next to the door. You, my dog and I will be looking out the window like this, like UPS. Oh,
Where's my
UPS,
phone? Damn you!
get it. Yeah, so very excited about Friday. I'm sure Friday will be exciting for a lot of people. And I will definitely let you guys know how I like it. But yeah, get me on Facebook. Hit me up.
And I can be found. You can send me email to guy@mttfgo.com. I need to check and make sure that that still works. You can find me on Twitter. I am Mac Parrot there. I have a Skype telephone number 703 436 9501. 703 436 9501.
That one guy that calls, is he like a serial killer? That one guy that calls the number, is he
I'm
normal?
sorry?
The one guy that calls you on that Skype number, is he like normal? Is he
No, he's a good guy. Greg from North Carolina. He was our 200th licker over there on the
I heard,
the MyMac Facebook page.
I just kind of find it weird that he's the only one calling the Skype number now.
I know. And the thing is, they can get a Woody if they use that Skype number.
Yeah.
Did I send you a Woody?
I did. I got one for.
Okay. Don't say what it is. Don't say what it is. It's special. It's only for certain people.
Yeah. I used it to pay for. I used to pay for my iPhone. It was so good.
Yeah, because it's that valuable. It really, really is. Anyway, everybody, thanks for joining us today, and we will see you next week. Bye.
I see you, Marcus. Bye. See ya.
Yeah, boy.
So Marcus is gonna He's saying he's actually going to stand outside Friday morning at an
Of
Apple
your
store
house
until you get
and
their
get your
phone.
phone.
No, well, maybe he's going to the Mall of America, and I'm wondering if anybody else is listening or out there. I am curious to see if anybody else is going to do the same thing. Camp out. You camping out?
Who, me? No.
Yeah. No.
I'm still on a 6, man, or a 6 plus. I'm good. I've I spent way too much money putting the mobile podcasting kit together. Probably,
Yeah,
let
but
me think.
think what it's missing. Mobile.
100.
It's missing. It's missing the best part of it. The mobile
Oh,
phone. The
the
mobile device. You
I
need.
I probably have $500 to $600 in that, not counting my MacBook Pro. I probably have like $500 to $600 in that kit. Way too much money. Oh, you know what? We can just stop now.
Oh, Mark. Oh, we're not live anymore.